Deep in the forest of Albion lay the small town of Oakvale, unchanged by time and untouched by the sword. Here lived a boy and his family, a boy dreaming of greatness, of one day being a hero. Sometimes he imagined himself as a noble knight or a powerful wizard. And other times he dreamt he'd be an evil warrior. But in all his dreams of greatness, he could not possibly imagine the power of the destiny that lay before him.
Hey guys, Remo here, and I first heard of Fable when I was a sophomore in high school. Upon obtaining the game, it was also the first day that I cut a whole day of school. So Fable starts off with you daydreaming on your porch in Oakvale. Your father awakes you and informs you it's your sister's birthday and you need to obtain a present, and he doesn't plan on helping you out. But being the good father he is, he does provide a way to get your sister a present by doing good deeds around town. So you're immediately introduced to the game's karma system when you're guarding crates and a boy is trying to convince you to break them. I unfortunately rack up some bad karma by hitting the kid, but I gain good karma by completing the task I'm assigned. Now I hit the kid because he was a little prick. And you'll find a lot of those people inside the game. So my next task is to defend this kid from a bully. So you have the option to beat up the kid or beat up the bully. And so I beat up the bully because that is just not tolerated nowadays. And so because I beat up that kid earlier, not the bully, I gained good karma for beating up the bully. But since I hit that kid trying to convince me to break the boxes, I get chastised by the guards in town.
Children, and what do I get in return? Nothing.
But next I'm tasked with helping this woman find her husband, which is cheating on her. And I do find him and I have the option not to tell her. But I decide to tell her anyway because the interaction that happens is actually pretty funny. So we make the way up the hill, that way she can find her husband, and a funny little conversation ensues. I'll let you guys hear it.
You filthy swine! I ought to chop them right off! Don't insult me!
So upon completing this task, I have enough gold to buy my sister chocolate. And I do that, and I bring her chocolate in the field, right? And she is happy to receive the chocolate, and she makes a funny comment saying that this is just how it happened in her dream. But the funny thing is, she doesn't mention what happened next in her dream.
Let's go home. Mother will be back for my party any minute now. Wait, there's something wrong.
Bandits!
It's really happening. They're here. You've got to hide.
So it would have been nice if she would have mentioned this part of the dream earlier, but she tells me to hide and my character picks the most obvious spot ever, and it's wild because this actually works.
Evil had come to Oakvale. Bandits wielding torches and steel, slaying and burning all in their path. Blood-red flames lit the night as the villagers screamed and begged for mercy, and soon their bodies filled the streets. Then the raiders reached the last house, where the boy and his family lived. It was them they had slaughtered so many to find. The father fought to protect his kin, but he was no warrior, and fell mortally wounded. The bandits ripped the house apart, but could not find the boy. Through torture and threats, his mother and sister remained silent, and their furious attackers took them both. From the nearby woods, the boy watched as all he knew was taken away. His whole life was crushed to ashes. He was alone.
So after the bandit raid on Oakville, my character finally comes out of hiding to find his village just engulfed in flame. And so my character makes his way through the village to find what's left of his Oakville home and his family. Unfortunately, the answer is not much. So upon reaching your Oakville home, you're treated to the grisly sight of your father's corpse sprawled out in front of your house. You crouch down beside him in a sea of disbelief, but then you get rushed by a bandit, but fortunately you were promptly saved by some mysterious figure.
We must leave. It's not safe here. They're all dead. You don't want to join them, do you? Your life. There's nothing left for you in Oakville. And if you'd stayed, you'd be as dead as the rest of them. Come with me. My name is Maze, and I'm the head of the Guild of Heroes. You must have heard of it. You'll find nowhere safer in all of Albion, nor a better place to call your home. And if it's vengeance you want, you'll need the training only we can offer.
So Maze talks about the Heroes Guild, which we follow him to. He tells you surely you've heard of it. And it's funny because up until now you haven't heard of it, but this is where you'll be doing your training, and this is where you're introduced to the Guild Master.
I have a new student for you. Put him in the dorm upstairs with the girl.
You don't look much like hero material to me, but Maze knows what he's doing, I suppose. Well, follow me then.
So after meeting the Guild Master and him talking a little bit of crap about your appearance, he shows you to your quarters where you'll be staying, and he also gives you a little bit of exposition on your roommate. Her name is Whisper, and spoiler alert, she's kind of a
Now you
bitch.
should get some sleep. Your training starts tomorrow.
It's time to wake up. You must be my roommate. Shorter than I expected. My name's Whisper. I've been here for a month. Had the room to myself till now, too. But that's all right. You know you talk in your sleep. Sounded like a bad nightmare. Happens to a lot the first week. Some don't even last that long. You won't either if you don't get moving. The Guildmaster is waiting for us in the map room. You don't want to be late on your first day.
So we follow Whisper to the training ground and we do a bit of training. And after that, we get our first mission, right? We go out into the wild and we kill us some beetles, right? And the basic swordplay and combination here is pretty basic, but the thing is, back when this came out in like 03 or 04 or something, it was pretty epic, especially for a kid like me. And so, after the beetle job, we receive a little bit of pocket money and a congratulations from the guild master. It is at this point he informs us that, you know, we can turn in early for the night, or we can advance and become an apprentice.
The guild was now the boy's life. The memory of the Oakvale flames still scorched his mind, but soon he had no thought other than training, and he became stronger and more agile with every passing year. His days were filled with grueling exercises, the nights with study in the library. Finally, he was ready to become a guild apprentice, just as Maze had foreseen. The real training was about to begin.
So after a nice cool little montage of grueling hard work, studying, and training, we're back at the training ground, and this time we're doing combat with real weapons, right? This is where you're first introduced to Thunder, Whisper's older brother. This guy's kind of a dick, so you can see where Whisper gets it from, right? At this point, he talks about his melee skills and his victories in the arena, and the guild master offers to let him see, let's call it an exhibition between me and his Whisper. So as you guys can see right here, I proceed to Dark Soul roll around and juke her out with my superior footwork. But unfortunately, one of the worst thing about the combat is a lot of enemies have these invincibility frames where they'll just auto block your attack no matter what, whether it makes sense or not. And that kind of annoys me, but moving on. So next we're introduced to one of our abilities, and this ability has us channeling lightning. And one thing that becomes immediately apparent is I'm a Sith. I'm Darth Sidious. Look at these lightning hands. How the fuck did I do that? As overpowered as it may seem, it does not scale well at all.
The boy mastered the skills quickly, but there was always more to learn. For years, the guild was his home, his school, and his life. But as time passed, his thoughts returned always to the world outside. The life he had lost, the family that had been torn from him. At last, only the final day of tests remained. Success would mark the end of his training. He would receive the guild seal and be free to forge his own destiny. He would become a hero.
So on the final day of class, my final test is to defeat Maze in combat using all the skills I have attained. After I defeat Maze, I proceed to my graduation ceremony. And it's kind of funny because at the graduation ceremony, I am accompanied by Whisper. And it's weird because I could swear when I was a child and I first got brought to the Heroes Guild, Whisper was already an adult. So I don't know, maybe black don't crack or something, but there's no way we're the same age. As Whisper has to be at least twice my age at this point. But we both graduate and we both get told the ramifications of some of our actions. At this point, you're introduced to the hub. The hub is where you'll be taking missions, upgrading your skills and your attributes such as speed, accuracy, strength, toughness, and your abilities, your will abilities, Inflame, Fireball, Charge Strike, Multi-Strike. There's a plethora of abilities here for you to play with, but my favorite ability is the time control ability. But it's all pretty cool because you can actually make a little mini build. So at this point I take my first side quest, which is an attack in the picnic area. It's a section of hornets that are attacking the picnic area, and it's just a quick little section that's introducing you to the live combat and cool little boss section.
Thanks for saving me.
What's cool about the combat is you have the option to target individual enemies, or if you don't target any enemies, I like it a lot better because it makes it a lot easier to hit multiple enemies at once. But yeah, I clear out the hornets harassing the villagers in this poor area, and I collect the XP, and then I'm introduced to the Hornet Boss, the Queen Hornet. Now the fact that she floats makes her kinda hard to hit, but luckily we have a bow. And I whip out my bow and I get the job done. After you take the queen out, you're awarded with the queen's head in a nice little standing ovation from the villagers you just saved. The queen's head is basically a trophy. You also are awarded with renown. Renown is basically the reputation. The more renown you have, the more well known you are. Upon returning to the Heroes Guild to collect another quest card, you're introduced to Briar Rose. Briar Rose is kind of a bitch. She's another hero, I guess, and she berates you because you're not on her level yet, and she tells you all the good quests are gone, so go clean the kitchen, bitch. So as I proceed on my adventure, I come across a beggar, a lowly peasant who's being harassed by a young upstart, right? You can choose to help the beggar, or you can choose to help the bully. And obviously I choose to help the beggar. In one non-violent way is there's all kinds of expressions you can use. One expression allows you to fart, right? And so I just fart in front of the guy and he gets all angry telling me how I'm just like the filthy old beggar. And it was a pretty easy way to get this guy to leave without actually having to beat him up. So upon making it to Bowerstone, you're confronted by one of the town guards, right? The town guard stops you, telling you that, hey, there's rules around here. You can't just do what you want around here. He lets you know that this is a peaceful town and that he's going to need to confiscate your weapons, right? Which is kind of odd because there's other people in the town that have weapons on them, but hey, who am I to complain, right? After he shows you all the little areas in town, you catch your first glimpse of Lady Grey. Now keep in mind, you can marry just about any female in this game, and even back then I thought that was really cool. After the town guard finally shuts the hell up, you meet up with Maze, who's in front of the town pub. Maze is our little plot mover at this moment because he informs you about that night in Oakville where your village was raided by bandits. There was another survivor, and that survivor just so happens to be your sister. How convenient he's mentioning it now. So before I proceed with the main quest, I take a side quest because I need to do some leveling up. And one of the cool systems they have is a boast system. Boasts are basically extra rules in the mission, right? They're extra modifiers, like some of which being take no damage or do the mission completely naked, right? And as you boast about what you're going to do, these villagers, they cheer for you, right? And if you complete the boast, it grants you a nice little extra reward. It's a nice little extra incentive, and it grants you an extra little challenge to the mission. Now, as a kid, I don't remember completing many of the boasts, probably because, you know, at the beginning of the game when you're introduced to the mechanic, the boasts are kind of hard, you know, completing a mission in your underwear. But I proceed to the mission anyway, and I'm greeted by Whisper. Whisper tells me about how Lady Grey put the opposite mission in the Heroes Guild, and the whole system is really odd, right? Because when you go get a mission from the Heroes Guild, bandits can actually place a mission in the Heroes Guild, right? So you have the option to do the mission for the farmer, which will grant you good karma, basically. It will grant you plus good reputation. Or you can do the mission for the bandits, which will probably be looting the farmers and sometimes even killing the farmers, which would grant you bad karma, but usually the payout is better. But the thing about that is you can actually cheese the karma system. This is one of those like games where it's really easy to cheese the karma system because there's places you can go and basically just pay for karma, you know. You can go to the church and donate for good karma, for example, or you can go to a temple and sacrifice your companion for bad karma. And it's a pretty cool little karma system, you know. Keep in mind, this game came out in like 2004. But yeah, this guy basically has some valuables, and my objectives is to protect his crates. But since I boasted, I totally forgot I have to do this quest completely naked. And so I proceed over to where the bandits are, and I promptly give them the old 1-2 buckle my shoe. What's also cool is to ease the burden, this guy also hired a couple town guards to help me. Now, one of the boasts was do the quest with no help at all, but since I'm already out here naked, I figured I better at least, you know, have a little bit of backup, right? And these guys, they do not do a lot of damage, but one thing they are good for is drawing aggro and putting quest items back where they need to go. But unfortunately, my companions, they're not the smartest companions, because sometimes you will be duking it out and one of the guys will just be across the map, and you'll notice it's just 2 of you guys instead of 3. But no worries. Like I said, this came out in like 2004. At the time, this was some really groundbreaking shit, especially on an Xbox game console. So I feel like, considering the fact that this game is a product of its time, I can excuse that, because this game is actually better and less buggy than a lot of the games that come out today. And I think that's saying a lot. Cyberpunk 2077. But I do end up taking a little bit of damage, which is not surprising, especially considering the lack of armor, right? But you can chug as many health potions as you have in your inventory, right? But you want to know one place you can't chug health potions? In Fight Club. Now, first rule about Fight Club: do not talk about Fight Club, right? So all over Albion, there's these little fight clubs. These fight clubs, they're all unarmed combat, right? And so the first fight club you can join is in Bowerstone. You basically approach the fight club leader and you talk to him, and he lets you buy your way in. You'll be fighting unarmed with no armor, basically, and it's a cool little unarmed section. Now, as a kid, I swear these felt a lot longer than they actually are, but hey, like I said, this game came out in 2004. How this all goes is you basically buy your way in, and you have to fight, I believe, 3 to 4 opponents in a row without getting beat. The first one is really easy, right? The first one, you know, you just throw a couple punches and that guy's down, right? But it gets progressively harder as the fight goes on. One of the best tactics I found for dealing with these guys is just to kind of Dark Souls roll out of the way. It's funny how this game inspired the Dark Souls roll. I know that's a joke, guys, calm down. But yeah, one of the best ways I found is just to kind of roll out the way, get behind an enemy, and just kind of beat him in the back of the head. But as you run through these guys, eventually you'll get the leader that comes at you shouting, "I'll take care of this myself." And what's cool is, upon dealing with that guy, you'll get credentials, right? And these credentials will allow you to enter fights in other areas in Albion. Say, if you don't have these credentials, you'll just get turned around.
Get back in the ring. Get back in.
So after beating the final dude in the Oakville Fight Club, I take another side quest where I'm tasked by this grandma with rescuing her grandson from this I don't know what the hell this thing is, this nymph type of thing, right? And the thing that makes these nymphs so annoying is they can spawn other enemies, right? And any enemy that can spawn other enemies can go to hell. But there's a couple ways you can go about this, right? Because I have a couple followers right now. You can actually either fight the nymph and she'll then proceed to spawn in a plethora of enemies, but I do manage to one-tap her right now before she can spawn in a lot of guys. Or you can sacrifice one of your followers and she'll let the little boy go. I like that, right? Because it gives you a good path and it also gives you an evil path to go down, right? And the more evil you get, the more it affects your appearance. And it's kind of funny that your appearance changes the more evil you get, because as a kid I was subscribed to Game Informer, and I remember reading the hype marketing for this game, and this is not verbatim, but the marketing said something along the lines of, what if like every action had a consequence, and those consequences would immediately affect your appearance and the way people perceive you. Fable. And I was immediately hyped as a kid. I couldn't wait to play this game. And what sucks is, as a kid, I didn't always have $60 for a new game. Most of the time I got a used game, right? But luckily this came out right around my birthday, and so this was one of those rare occasions where I did get a new $60 game. But after rescuing the kid, we make our way through the caverns, right? Fighting our way through a sea of these, I don't know, ghoul, gremlin, goblin looking motherfuckers. And it's one hell of a fight. I find myself constantly running back to my team so I can use a healing spell in order to regenerate their health. What's funny about this whole section is the reason I have 2 followers, well technically 3 if you include the kid we just rescued, but one of the followers I actually rescued in the cavern, right? He was here trying to complete some kind of bounty. He was talking about treasures in the cave, right? And so I rescued him, and I agreed to take him with us. And that agreement included that we would split any treasure that we did find. And I did find some treasures, so I can either kill this guy and keep all the treasure for myself, or I can give him his cut. And considering the fact that I'm not starving for gold right now, I give the guy his cut, and we take the kid and we proceed back to his grandma's house. But what's funny about going to the kid's grandma's house is, it's funny because you think you're doing a mission for a sweet little old lady, but once again, not everything is what it seems, because as we get towards the cottage where his grandma lives, the kid informs us that his grandma is worse than the nymph that captured him. His grandma is much worse, and his grandma is the one that told him to go into those caves in the first place, right? And so it's really funny because this game has a way of subverting expectation, which is pretty genius. So this kid, he decides to go back to the cottage, and he finally decides to take a stand. He runs inside the cottage, grabs his belongings, and he deltas the fuck out of there.
Hey, what's going on? I demand you stop right now. I have chores for you. Why are you running away? James? I'm speaking to you.
So after the kid leaves, I did wind up killing his grandma.
Just point the way.
But I didn't show it though. But I don't think I even received bad karma for killing his grandma either. But upon making it to the next story section, there's a section where there's a sword in the stone, right? And it's said that only the mightiest heroes can pull the sword out of the stone. Apparently, I'm just not there yet because I try to pull the sword out the stone and I get my ass handed to me. So, I proceed to the arena. And to enter the arena, you need a nomination from the guild. Luckily, we already have that nomination. Unfortunately, before I can get inside the arena, this jackhole informs me that I will have to dismiss my companion. This apparently is one of those you have to do this challenge alone type of deals. So I promptly dismiss my companion, but no worries because there's actually companions in every region that you can recruit. But I consider it ironic I had to ditch my companion considering what happens later.
If you follow me, I'll take you to the arena preparation area. I tell you, the history of this place is wasted on the public. The arena's first heroes, our land's heritage. But do people care? Nah. People don't want history, they want the heroes of today. Still, I suppose every era needs its own heroes. Quite profound, that. You can quote me if you like.
Welcome to the Witchwood Arena. A couple of basic points first. First of all, I must remind you to keep your aggression for the arena itself. Anyone caught trying to cut up his rivals in here will be in trouble. You have been warned. Secondly, the way out. You can come in after each round, not during a round.
Ralph, it's getting really ugly out there.
Alright, you, Chameleon. You've heard all this before. Go on for the first round and keep the crowd happy.
No problem. This'll be easy.
Okay, when it's your turn, I'll call your name and you will enter the arena through the door our friend Chameleon just used. Once in the arena, you will battle foes from all over Albion. Every group of creatures you defeat wins you prize money and increases the prize for the next round. The aim is to stay out there as long as you can to earn the big gold. Now, you can come back here anytime you like to buy potions or more equipment. Do this though, and your price for the next round will be 0. And worse, the crowd will think you're a big loser. Real heroes get out there and stay out there. Whether you rest or not, the arena bonus prize, given by Jack of Blades himself, will go to whoever gets through every single round alive.
So the arena is basically exactly what it sounds like. It's one big ass arena, right? They dump you in the middle of an arena and they just spawn in a bunch of enemies. And I believe they spawn in like 3 or 4 or 5 waves of enemies, and it's up to you to get the job done, right? And you can continue to fight, or you can extract after your round is complete. But if you continue to fight, the rewards will accumulate, right? And if you extract, people will call you a little bitch, basically. And that's worth noting. One thing that's cool is the vendor in here does sell some really good gear, but that gear is expensive. So in the meantime, while you wait, there's nothing to do but talk to random NPCs about bullshit and work on your target practice while you're waiting for your turn in the arena. And while I'm waiting, I chat up with this guy, and it's funny, right? Because he tells me that the guy that they sent in there, Chameleon, he's really not gonna last long, right? And so that kind of makes me wonder about my chances in the arena. But of course, we are the hero from the Heroes Guild, so you already know we should have plot armor, but we're at least stronger than everyone else in the game, besides the antagonist. And it's kind of odd that they have a blackjack table set up in here. I don't play any of the blackjack because I don't know how to play blackjack in real life. But it's kind of cool that they took the time to throw that into the arena section of the game, just in case you want to stop and have a quick little card game. But one of the guards comes in with news about Chameleon. Unfortunately, Chameleon has met his demise in the arena, and in front of 5,000 people too. The guy informs us that Chameleon went out like a little bitch, and so now they turn to the new guy. They bring out the new guy. It's all up to us, the new guy. Okay. So, I draw my sword and I charge once more onto the breach.
Like our other brave challengers, this something-coming hopeful has an eye on tonight's grand prize, presented by Jack of Blades himself. And we're on to the first round. An old arena favorite, it's the Wasp Horde.
Now, one thing you guys probably noticed about my appearance is now I have little blue lines all over my face and my body. My body is essentially glowing with these little blue streaks of light. That is because after I had talked to Maze earlier, I went and rescued my sister from Twin Blades camp. Unfortunately, we lost that section, but she infused us with a little bit of power upon completing the mission. Now, as far as I know, the power doesn't actually really do anything. If she infused me with some power, I don't really know what it does. And that's the same with later on in the story, but I'm sure as a kid, I don't know, I probably felt more powerful as a kid. So the first wave at the arena had us just taking on swarms of hornets. First pretty easy level, but it progressively gets harder, right? And so I do choose to stay in the arena so those rewards accumulate. But one thing that does kind of suck is choosing to stay in the arena. You don't get a chance to go replenish your items and, you know, refill on mana potions and health potions. But fortunately, I'm a G and I stocked up on all that stuff prior to even coming to the arena. So the second round has me fighting off these little hordes of goblin men. And so I promptly take out the ranged fighters first and then deal with the other ones. Another reason I chose to continue all the way through the entire arena section was because there's actually an achievement for completing the arena without stopping. So I figured I might as well pick up that achievement while I'm doing this. So while I'm fighting these guys, I decide to make good use of my time control ability. To me, I easily find time control to be one of the best abilities in the game. I believe the ability is actually called slow time, but that's basically exactly what it does, is it slows time, right? And it allows you to easily get behind enemies. But one thing that kind of makes me angry about the whole system is these enemies, you can be directly behind some of these enemies and somehow they will still auto block. Like, look, that guy right there. There's no way you had time to auto block like that. That auto blocking invincibility shit gets on my nerves, and at that point, you know, you have no choice but to stop hitting an enemy, try to dodge roll around them, or just get behind them, you know? And I think that whole system sucks. Now, as you progress through the rounds, the arena master decides to award you with a companion. This companion being Whisper. Now, Whisper is totally useless here. She deals little to no damage, and the only time she even manages to get any kills is when she's simply cleaning up one of the enemies that I already did the vast majority of the damage to. And another thing that pisses me off is the fact that we're fighting Balverines. Balverines are my least favorite faction in the game. These guys, they just have so many invincibility frames, and they're pretty tanky, especially if you have subpar weapons. Thankfully, I have some of the best weapons in the game, so I can deal with these guys fairly easily, but they still do this thing to where they'll retreat. They'll just jump up in the air and retreat, and it makes it really hard to finish them off because you have to wait till they come down from the air, and it sucks. But while I'm fighting these Balverines, I decide to make use of my multi-shot ability. Another ability that I do find useful is the multi-shot ability for the bow and arrow, which basically triples your damage. Another thing that's cool about the bow and arrow is most enemies can't block that either, so it's all a matter of getting your bow wound up and getting the shot off before they hit you. But yeah, this section with the Balverines ends up being one hell of a fight, and you guys can see, even with some of the best weapons in the game, these guys still take a hell of a lot of damage. And one thing that sucks is they have these traps in the arena, these spikes and these scissor things, right? And they constantly knock the enemies down. What sucks about enemy getting knocked down is you can't deal any damage to an enemy that's already on the floor. You have to wait for them to get back up. And another thing that pisses me off about this fight is Whisper. Not only is she useless, but she has this bomb AoE thing, right? And she'll throw out this AoE bomb, and the AoE bomb actually damages you too. And so yeah, that kind of sucks, right? But yeah, once you start really getting into these rounds, they start throwing just a ton of these enemies at you, and it's one hell of a fight. And I found myself spamming a lot of potions during this fight. But yeah, they started getting absolutely ridiculous with these enemies because it's like, one Balverine, okay, fine, I'll deal with that. Two, okay, come on, you're kind of pushing it, especially look at this, I'm fucking slicing this motherfucker in the back and he's just not dying. But 3, 4, 5, 6 Balverines, and this is fucking Underworld Evolution, man. It's insane. And as you guys can see, I keep trying to do my best Dark Souls impression. Get behind the enemy and slice the enemy in the back as many times as I can. But unfortunately, I don't know. There doesn't seem to be any damage multiplier for being behind an enemy. So I'm forced to just keep chipping away at these guys' health until they finally die. But one thing that's worth noting is they have augments for weapons. And one of the augments they have is a silver augment. And if you have a silver augment, your weapons will be more effective against Balverines. So as you progress through the rounds, what they'll start doing is they'll start throwing big bosses at you, right? And one thing that's worth noting is I find these big bosses a lot easier to kill than the little bosses. I was able to put down both of these big guys like it was nothing, whereas the whole Balverine fight, I was struggling with that, and that whole section ended up going on for way too long.
Small house. Do they want another 8,000 gold? Things are getting very tough for our contestants. We can all see that they're feeling the strain. But what stands between our noble heroes and their winning? Is that a pile of rubble? No, it's the rock trolls, Staneth and Groin. 3, 2.
So as you make your way through these later rounds, they keep bringing out the big guys, and once again, I don't really mind these guys because I just hit them up with time control and I just slice the fuck out of them, right? But one thing that they do have is they have this throwing attack where they can throw boulders at you, and they have this AoE attack, right, to back you up real quick to stop you from spamming them with heavy attacks. And it's funny that they have this system, right? Because even Destiny 1, in Destiny 1, there were a ton of bosses where you can just get close and just shotgun the fuck out of them. And so it's funny that even in this game that came out way back in 2004, they have these area of denial mechanics. And Destiny did not have those. So I find that hilarious. One thing about these fights, especially if you went all 8 rounds without stopping, at least I think it was 5 rounds, whatever, especially if you went through every round without stopping, is they do have resurrection potions in addition to health vials and mana vials. And another thing they also have that's wild is they have these skill potions, right? And they have like will skill potions, strength skill potions, and some other kind of skill potion. And what these potions do is you drink one of these potions and they just straight up give you a load of XP. And I don't think I've ever seen that in any other game, to where you can just actually chug a potion for a flat amount of XP.
Is it worth dying for another 10,000? 3, 2.
So finally, we're on what I believe to be is the last boss, and everything gets all dark and grim, right? And this cool scorpion boss spawns. And I remember as a kid thinking like, oh my god, this boss is so cool. And it's crazy because most of these enemies you'll see again at some point in the game, but this big scorpion boss guy, he's exclusive to the arena. Once you kill him, he's basically no more. And I basically end up using the time control to try to cheese this guy, but even the big scorpion boss guy has invincibility frames. Come on now. What's funny about the scorpion boss dude is, even with my time control ability, he will draw the fight out by crawling underground and just spawning some more little scorpions in the fight for him. But eventually, I do chip away at all the little scorpions, and I do manage to bring this guy down after a little bit of trial and error. And one thing that's worth noting is, when you're fighting with Whisper, you are basically fighting by yourself, because Whisper does absolutely no damage. She's just there to piss you off. Your companions that you pay for do way more damage than Whisper. Whisper is kind of just here, and she's been rude throughout this entire process. And she's never stopped calling you a farm boy. Even after beating her in combat several times, you're still the farm boy. So now at this point, you finally defeated the arena. After a lot of trial and error, you finally did it, no thanks to fucking Whisper. And it's funny because now at this point in the story, you're giving him a cool little ultimatum about Whisper's future.
We have 2 winners. Incredible! So, what will happen? 2 winners and only 1 prize? Well, as you know, we have a special guest here today. It's the one, the only, the hero of heroes, Jack of Blades!
I have returned. After an eternity away from you all, Jack of Blades is back.
Now that was your first actual glimpse at the Jack of Blades, right? And it's funny how this dude is supposed to be the hero of Albion, yet this guy is having two heroes of the guild fight it out in the arena. And remember when I said the multi-strike ability is pretty awesome because it's basically unblockable? Well, Whisper is one of the few characters that can block the multi-shot arrows, which is wild. Look at those invincibility frames, even though time is slowed. So basically you end up dueling it out with Whisper because there is only one prize. And instead of splitting the prize like two logical human beings, Whisper agrees to fight you, but she says she will not kill you. And I'm not gonna lie, this fight with Whisper kind of pissed me off because it does go on a little longer than I would want it to. It's like, bitch, just stand there and let me cut you down. But finally, I do end up getting the better of Whisper.
We agreed. Let's stop fighting now.
Now at this point you have the option to cut Whisper down. You can either cut Whisper down, which is the evil route, or you can spare Whisper's life, which will gain you good karma. And considering the fact that I really don't need the money, I choose to spare Whisper.
But my dear lady, it was mere luck. He's nothing but a...
Ah, there you are. The hero they're all talking about. I'm impressed. And that doesn't happen often. But I forgot my manners. I am Lady Grey, the Mayor of Bowerstone. I can see you are a man of worth. You should pay me a visit at my Bowerstone North Manor.
My lady, if you would only
Thunder, I am tired of your protests, tired of your jealousy. The time of your glory is long gone. You should learn to accept that. As I was saying, hero, I do hope you will accept my invitation. We have much to discuss.
This is not over. New blood spills just like any other, and yours will spill soon.
That was unbelievable. I haven't seen anything like it for a long time. I'll guide you back through the Hall of Heroes. You truly deserve to stand amongst them. I must say, you remind me of someone who fought here many years ago. Memory's not what it used to be, but I think her name was Scarlet Robe. That's right. Ever heard of her? Probably not. It was all before your time. But if you look on your right, you'll see her statue. She was the first female hero to become arena champion.
She was a fine hero, just as soft-hearted as you. But her dedication came with a price. After her final battle, she was never the same. She lives now in complete solitude, crushed by her failure to save her family long ago. And yet here you are. I knew her son would end up here one day. It's in your blood, and in your sister's too. You should bring her to me. I so long to reunite you both with your mother. Just think of the happiness it would bring her.
This was the true face of his mother, Scarlet Robe, Slayer of Balverines. Once one of the fiercest heroes in all of Albion, Yet her most splendid battle was also to be her last. Ambushed by a dozen Balverines, Scarlet killed them all, only to fall injured and drained beside their corpses. There she would have died but for Brom, a kind and simple woodsman, who tended her back to health. In time they married and had 2 children, a girl and then a boy. Scarlet's days of death were forever behind her.
So upon completing the arena and exiting, you see a statue of one of the heroes of the arena. The hero is a female known as Scarlet Robe. Now, Scarlet Robe is actually the mother of our protagonist. And so, as you're exiting the arena, you're also treated to a short conversation with the Jack of Blades himself. Now, I remember as a kid being very taken back by Jack of Blades' dialogue, because from what I knew, he was supposed to be the hero of Albion. And so, I don't know, he almost struck me as kind of evil, if you will. But after the arena, it's more side quest in time, so I end up taking a side quest from this guard who's supposed to be rescuing these traders, but he's not rescuing them because unfortunately he made a deal with the bandits, so now he's paying me to bail him out this bad situation he's in. And so I return to Twin Blades Camp. Twin Blades Camp is the camp where I originally rescued my sister. And as you guys can see, I'm able to hire another follower. Don't forget, remember at the start of the arena, we had to part ways with our follower. But fortunately, now that we're back in the area where this guy resides, we're able to recruit him again. And I love these followers. Each follower has interesting dialogue. Like, I wish they had more dialogue options, but I do enjoy the limited dialogue they have. Like, I believe this guy will just randomly shout, "Just point the way." And so at some point, as I was traveling with this guy, I found myself just being like, "Just point the way. Just point the way." But I proceed through this area and I rescue all the traders that I could find in this area. And another thing that's worth noting about this area is at nighttime, there's another fighting ring in this area. I don't know if you guys remember, but we were doing Fight Club earlier, and there's actually another Fight Club section here. So once you clear this place out and finish the quest, you can come back and take on that challenge if you wanted to.
I see him. Oh, shit. It feels good to be free again, I can tell you that. Oh, thanks. Asher, you're a splendid fellow. I'll be sure to give you a discount on my wares if I ever see you again.
So upon completing that quest, I take another quest in Nullhole Glade. So this quest in Nullhole Glade involves bandits trying to infiltrate the town. This is another one of those quests where you can either side with the bandits or you can side with the guy that runs the town, and he doesn't give you a lot of options.
I'm not letting that bandit go. He's plundered this village for far too long. We've got him under guard up the hill by the tavern, and that's where he's staying. So you'll just have to go back out there and get rid of the scum's bandit friends. Talk to the guard over there when you're ready, and he'll open the gates for you. As for me, I'm off back to my hut. Good luck.
So yeah, at this point you're pretty much out of options, and that lazy ass isn't gonna help you, so I promptly go talk to the guards and get him to open the gates. And I go out there and I proceed to give the bandits the old 1-2 buckle my shoe. And it's funny though, when the gates open, they assume that they're just gonna run right past me and get to their leader, but I promptly go over here and hit slow time and proceed to slaughter these guys. And after you slaughter these guys, you have to go over there and make sure the leader is secure. But one reason why you have to do this quest is because this is another area that contains a fight club.
We don't tolerate uncivil behaviour here, so mind you don't end up in our holding cell. We have a raving lunatic locked up right now, but he won't be seeing many more sunrises, if you know what I mean. Now, Lady Grey desires to speak with you. You'll find her grace in the gardens outside of Mansion. This is a great honour, even for a hero, so mind your manners.
So after becoming the hero of the arena, you're granted access to Bowerstone North, and this is the section where you can court Lady Grey. And before I do that, I try to hit up this store, which is closed because that store is the only store that sells black roses in Bowerstone North. And before I even go talk to Lady Grey, I buy a house because she won't even deal with you unless you already have a home.
Intrigued. Will you walk with me to the courtyard? I would so love to speak with you. It's lovely here, don't you think? But sometimes it feels like the loneliest place in the world. You see, I haven't married yet. Somehow I've never met a man worthy enough. I've always known that only someone who could conquer the arena could conquer me. Perhaps you could bring me a gift from town. I'm sure you can find something fitting for a lady. Oh, that's beautiful. I knew you'd have a romantic soul, not like some heroes. Of course, a woman in my position can't marry into poverty. The very least one can expect is that a man will have his own house. I'm so pleased to hear you have a house. I wouldn't want to think you wanted to marry for the money. Would you do something heroic for me now? A while ago, I lost a necklace. It is most precious to me. Perhaps you could investigate round town. Someone must know its whereabouts.
So after presenting Lady Grey with a black rose and informing her that I am a homeowner, one of the last things she tasked me to do is to go around town and see if I can retrieve any information on her missing necklace. I go around town and I proceed to talk to some of the guys around town, and they give me comments like, "Oh, Lady Grey's looking to marry? I feel sorry for that poor bastard." And it's kind of unsettling, but you know what? I don't care because Lady Grey is easily the hottest one in the game, and I'm going to marry her no matter what. But one good piece of dialogue that a couple of the guys keeps bringing up is the Grey House. So apparently the Grey House does have some significance.
Enjoy yourself, won't you?
You really are devoted to the lady, aren't you? Well, if she's looking for information, you should talk to some of the men around the town. Really, we have such gossips in Bowerstone North.
So after chatting it up with this female, I find this poor bastard in a cage.
We're all in... Finally, someone to talk to. You've got to help me out. The mayor's having me executed. That's what happens when you start asking too many questions round here. That woman is a demon, but no one will believe me. Just because I was wrong about the guards controlling our dreams by spiking our water supplies. Her sister was an angel. Would have made a wonderful mayor. And I know Lady Grey killed her. I just know it. You have to help me prove it. Otherwise, Bowerstone will remain in her clutches and I'll be executed. Yes, finally! We're going to bring that crazy witch down. All you need to do is get her dead sister to tell you what really happened. Don't give me that look. We all know ghosts exist. You've seen them, I've seen them, we've all seen them. Lady Grey's sister, Amanda, had a sweetheart called Rodri. Nice guy, usually hangs out in Barrowfields. If anyone knows how to entice her out of oblivion, it's him.
So, after chatting it up with that poor bastard, he informs me that Lady Grey's sister, Amanda, was a sweetheart and she was murdered by the hands of Lady Grey. And he needs me to find evidence of Amanda's demise. And so, he sends me to go talk to Amanda's lover, which I immediately go do. One thing that's worth noting is that door you see in the background, that is a demon door. They usually have treasure behind them or lead you to some super secret route. So, demon doors are pretty cool and they're pretty good fun in the Fable franchise. But I find Amanda's lover and I proceed to the Grey House. One thing that's worth noting is on the way to the Grey House, we actually end up finding our sister again, and she gives us a little bit of exposition that moves the story forward. But after having a conversation with our sister, we do end up uncovering evidence of Amanda's demise.
Pitiful fool, Thunder. He is nothing compared to you, my love. But if you could defeat him in a duel, we would be rid of him for good. You'll find him on the bridge by the jail outside Bowerstone. Then we can be together, and we can forget all this ever happened.
Now, this was one of the few times in the game where I took the bad route and I gave the evidence to Lady Grey in order to take her hand in marriage. But before I do that, I have to go finish off Loudmouth-ass Thunder, Whisper's brother, right? And I spared Whisper. I do not know if I'm going to do the same with this guy because Thunder's just kind of an asshole, even more so than Whisper was. So, I confront Thunder and a fight ensues. And Thunder has a bunch of weird attacks. He has this weird spinning attack that can deal a pretty decent amount of damage. And he has this crazy AoE thunder attack, right? And the thing is, if you get close, he'll just start using area of denial mechanics to where you just get knocked away. And so the only real way to deal with Thunder is to use an ability called Berserker. What Berserker does is, Berserker, it transforms you into like a big muscular version of yourself. You're basically Billy Badass at that point. And it makes it a lot easier to fight opponents, but one thing it does that I hate is it just knocks opponents down. So you can't deal constant damage, but you can easily just keep knocking opponents down with that. So that's what I do. I just spam that, and Thunder gets mad and cheeses me off a mountain. So we end up falling down, and another fight ensues. Now Thunder keeps yelling, "Lady Grey is mine, I won't give up on her," right? But after getting his ass whooped a little longer, he immediately gives up on Lady Grey and decides to live to fight again another day. And so that's kind of odd. One thing I hate about this fight is, for all the options they give you, they don't give you the option to kill this bastard. They gave you the option to kill his sister, but they don't give you the option to kill Thunder. Good storytelling, Peter Molyneux.
Looks like this is where it ends. Whisper chooses her friends well. No one has defeated me before. And now...
What happened? No one could have proven themselves worthier than you. I'm so happy. I must make the arrangements for the wedding at once. And if you so much as look at another woman before then, I shall have her pretty head chopped off.
And so the hero married. And for one day at least, the troubles of a hard world were put aside.
So I'm a married man now, boys. I finally got hitched. And I got hitched to the prettiest girl in the game, too. Of course, I had to go through a lot of bullshit, as you do with any woman, but yeah, finally got married to Lady Grey. And what's cool about the marriage system is you can actually get busy with your wife or your husband, because you can marry a dude. This game, you could do that way back in 2004. And upon getting busy with your wife, you can have kids. I thought that was really cool, and once again, I have to praise the game for that attention to detail. I appreciate that very much. But upon getting married, I decide to continue with the storyline, and I am going after the Jack of Blades. And so basically, as you're going after the Jack of Blades, you encounter a new enemy type. These Anubis looking motherfuckers who wield these dual blade looking things that are pretty cool, right? And so you have to go take all these guys out and pick up Jack of Blades' trail. And as you're doing this quest, you're also rescuing guards and adding companions as you go along, which makes the fighting a lot easier. And I find that really cool because they are a lot of these guys, and these guys are pretty tough. But once again, it's not like the guards deal a lot of damage. They're pretty much just good for drawing aggro and keeping enemies off you, so that way you can deal with the bulk of the situation while these guys distract an enemy.
I've got your back! I'm right behind you! I'm right behind you! I've got your back! I've got your back! I'm right behind you!
Hurry, they've almost reached the boat. You're running out of time.
So as we're getting closer to the Jack of Blades and rescuing this architect, the cool thing about this whole situation is Maze sent us to go find this architect, right? And the architect told us, he was like, you know what? Now that you blew my hiding spot, I have to go find a new one. And it was funny because I thought that was just some meta dialogue, but the guy was really right, because now we blew his hiding place so we could get a little bit of information. Now here this guy is getting hauled off to the prison by some of Jack of Blades' mates. That made me feel kind of stupid, and I didn't realize it when I was younger, but as I got older, now playing the game, I'm like, man, I really screwed that guy over, you know? But these guys just keep spawning in, right? So I end up just running past them and running to the bridge and fighting them all in a group, you know, because I think it's a lot easier to fight a group of motherfuckers than to just fight each one by one, you know? And I'm constantly using my Berserker ability because this is actually another good time to use Berserker when you got a large group of people around you, because you can knock down the bulk of everybody, and the people you didn't knock down, you can just move on to them.
You saved me. But then, I'd still be safely in my cave if it wasn't for you. Yes, I know the way into Bargate Prison. I know everything, don't I? That's why I'm as good as dead if they find me again. Anyway, there's an ancient route into the prison through the Litchfield graveyard. It hasn't been opened in centuries, but you'll have to figure that one out for yourself.
So, since I've been playing for a while and I've leveled up quite a few of my skills and attributes, I decide to take another crack at this thing, right?
Fingers crossed, let's see what the hero can do.
Unfortunately, it does not go my way. And it's like, damn, what the hell does it take to pull that sword out? Because I was never able to pull it out as a kid. But I proceed to the graveyard because the architect informs us that the only way to Jack of Blades' prison is through the graveyards, and how convenient is that? Upon getting to the graveyard, I find these two old dudes, one of which is actually a grave robber, talking about some shady shit. So I proceed to go in that dude's house and I jack the helmet that I'm gonna need later. Now, in this chest, I just found a shovel, right? Which tells me that I'm gonna have to do a little bit of digging. Now, this whole section sucks ass because it's just one big ass zombie trap, and these guys, they're just gonna keep spawning, right? So I ignore these guys for the most part, and I just proceed with looking for any quest items that I might need. And you know, I didn't notice it when I was a kid, and I just barely noticed it now, right? But if you look at the gravestones, right, some of the gravestones have crosses, some of the gravestones are just regular graves, and some of the gravestones have little demon horns. It's all the gravestones with little demon horns that have the items you need, you know? And basically what your objective here is, you have to rob a lot of graves because there's this skeleton dude, right? And you need to get his armor, his shield, and his helmet in order for him to open the path for you. And it's really obnoxious and really tedious, but I proceed through the graveyard and get the quest items needed to proceed, even though it pisses me off. It's such a slog. Another thing that pisses me off is as you're trying to run and enemies are just popping out of the ground, they hit you with this little knockback, which is just kind of obnoxious.
My armor, my helmet, my sword, and my shield. Gather for me in the path I shall yield.
So since these enemies are pissing me off and just being super obnoxious, I end up using my Berserker ability to just kind of beat them all back really quick and just kind of tank my way through the graveyard and get what I need to complete the quest. So upon opening this chest, I receive a fishing rod, right? Which worries me because the fishing in this game is absolutely ass, right? But I do what it takes in order to complete the objective. I go over here and I do a little bit of fishing. And the fishing involves, when the fish stops, you have to spam X in order to reel the fish in. But your line snaps so easily, so it's kind of tedious, and it's a little bit of trial and error right here, but I get it eventually.
Sword and my shield, you gathered for me, so the path I shall yield.
So, you helped the Old One recover his armor. I'll let you through then. Be careful though. I don't want your finger marks all over me.
Look at that, man. Even the demon door is an asshole. So this whole area on the way to Jack's prison is kind of a hellhole, right? You're going down this old graveyard path, and every couple steps you take, there's gonna be zombies popping out of the ground trying to kill you. And so I take these guys out, but what I end up doing at some point is I end up just rushing past all these guys because these guys are kind of obnoxious, and so I say fuck it at this point. I just keep popping berserkers so they can't knock me down, and I delta my ass past them. That way I can get to the objective area as quickly as possible. And I'm actually quite relieved when I reach the stairway, right? Because I'm like, at least these assholes can't pop out of the concrete. What's funny is, after making my way past that last motherfucker right there, right? The door appears to be locked. So, I guess before Destiny was Destiny, this game had this old, defeat this enemy to open this door mechanic. And it works like a charm. So the next section has me killing a bunch of zombies on this stone slab because apparently this thing needs undead souls to power the damn thing. And so we do that. One thing that's worth noting about each of these graves is each grave in the game says something unique from what I can tell. And I think that's really cool, right? One of my favorite quotes on one of the graves is, "I finished first in the human race." I thought that was funny, and I thought that was clever even as a kid. But after we kill the little zombies, then we gotta kill the zombie elites for some elite souls.
You've received a new quest card.
So as we're drawing closer and closer to our destination, I keep reaching these sections where I can't just run past, right? They have me surrounded in like a little room with barriers surrounding the exit. So the developers must have knew at some point, like, okay, hey, we're just constantly spamming zombies at this. These guys are probably gonna get tired of endless zombies at some point. So at the very last hallway, let's put an area where they can't pass unless they kill all the enemies. And I swear, Bungie must have saw that and took that and ran with it, because man, that's Destiny 1 in a nutshell. But as I finally make my way through the undead, I reach the bottom parts of Jack of Blades' prison. And it's funny because he has a bunch of guards guarding the place, and the only thing that makes these guards different from the normal guards is they're wearing red instead of blue.
Stop right there!
Even the guards are pissing me off at this point, so at this point I'm just like, you know what? I'll just delta my ass past all these guys, have them draw aggro, and I'll just fight them all in the group, you know? I'll get them all in one room, and I'll just hit them all with Berserker. And that's exactly what I end up doing, and it works like a charm. But after slicing through all these guys and proceeding up the stairs, I just pretty much Dark Souls roll past the last two guards, and I'm introduced to a very familiar face.
I told you. Touch me again, and I'll wring your neck. Wait. I know you. No, it's a trick. You're not my son. The bastard's playing with my head. But it really is you, isn't it? What the hell were you thinking coming here? Don't you see he'll take us both? Never mind. We've got to get out of here. Get this damn cage open.
So at this point, you're reunited with your dear mother. Your mother, who doesn't seem too thrilled to see you. She's more like, hey, what the hell are you doing here? Well, you know what? Never mind, let me go. Let's get the hell out of here. So, I free my mom, and I end up having to confront those last two guards that I kind of just delted my ass past, and then some. But thankfully, with my Berserker ability, I can make quick work of these guys and proceed.
Come. It isn't polite to leave without saying goodbye.
Bastard!
This child of yours is quite the hero, dear Scarlet. Did you know he's being crowned Arena Champion? You would have been so proud of him. It must run in the family. That and getting locked up in one of my charming little cells.
You disgusting freak. Let him go. He doesn't know anything.
Oh, I think you'll find he knows a great deal. You see, the arena seal I gave him has been showing me his every movement. It has been most entertaining. Digging up graves, saving old fools, meeting with that crazy sister of his.
Teresa?
Yes, it appears your darling little daughter is alive too. She's told him all about the sword, and that wretched bloodline of yours. And now, my sweet, you're going to tell me where the key is.
So it's at this point we're actually confronted by the Jack of Blades after rescuing our mother. Unfortunately, the face-to-face we get with Jack of Blades isn't the encounter I was hoping it was going to be, because we don't even get to challenge Jack of Blades. He just talks a little bit of shit, spouts some dialogue, has his minions surround you, and ultimately you end up in jail. It is at this point one of the guards comes to you and tells you about one of the yearly races that all the inmates have to participate in. And basically, if you win the race, you get an audience with the warden, right? And this whole section is pretty easy, but at the same time, it's also kind of annoying.
Eat my dust. Wolverine turd. Move it! Get your finger out, puss bag!
And I just love how the guards are talking shit as you're running past them.
That way, you useless filth!
So after winning this scrimmage across the entire castle, I finally get that audience with the warden that I've been waiting for.
Bravo! We have a winner. Guards, escort him to my office. Welcome to my modest quarters. You have earned yourself a singular reward, one of my world-famous poetry readings. Yes, that's right. These stone walls cannot still the beating heart of a poet. I don't want to hear one sound from you. Pouring forth one's soul requires the utmost concentration.
So yeah, this part is so cringe right here. While this dipshit is reading some poetry he wrote, you have to basically James Bond your ass past him and get the code on the wall. And hopefully the code on the wall is the correct code. What I found is the first code you get is always going to be the wrong code. This is one of those sections where it's designed for you to fail. But as a kid, I didn't know that, and I was like, damn, I just basically wasted some time in jail, because once you do fail, you trigger a sequence where you basically go to the torture chamber.
Tale does pour forth from its beak. It's painfully obvious you have no interest in the arts.
Welcome to your temporary home, the torture chamber. We're gonna have some fun with you. Yeah, we're gonna enjoy this.
The darkness of the cell consumed the hero's mind. And it consumed his life too. Another year would pass by in this prison. Another year of torture. The ancient, noble blood in his veins, the power of the guild, none of it meant a thing inside these walls. And all this time, Jack of Blades was free to roam Albion.
After spending quite a bit of time incarcerated, I am no longer bald. But being incarcerated for so long, you get a crack at another race. Thankfully, I win the race once again, and I get the poetry reading once again, and I stealth my ass past the warden once again, but this time I managed to steal his key. So I proceed to free all the inmates that are incarcerated in here. That way I have a little bit of backup, and I make my way outside armed with nothing but underwear and a stick. What sucks about having these guys accompany you is these guys deal little to no damage, so they do not last long against the guards at all. So in order to save as many of these guys as I can, I delta my ass to the room where my armor is stored. That way I can immediately start dealing some real damage. And for some reason, as soon as you pick up your armor, you also get your powers back. I think that was awfully convenient that they just had one big ass bag hidden in a room not that far away. All this time later, that was just labeled your missing belongings. But yeah, I proceed to loot the entire room. And what's cool about this room is every chest inside this room contains one piece of guard armor. So you can walk around as a guard if you'd like. But unfortunately, dressing as a guard does not provide any kind of disguise benefits. So they'll still attack you as soon as they see you, even though you're dressed as one of them. So after you get all your gear back and you get a little bit of armor going, you make your way down through Jack of Blades Castle, and on your way down you collect your mom once again, and you proceed back the way you came. And unfortunately these areas are pretty densely packed with a lot of guards, so it's quite a bit of fighting from point A to point B. Fortunately, I do still have a couple of these inmate guys following me, but they're really not good for too much. If anything, they draw a little bit of aggro, but these guys get two-tapped like it's nobody's business. But hey man, at least they're trying, you know? So after dealing with all the guards in the immediate area, you encounter a cool little mini boss. And I remember even as a kid thinking to myself like, man, how the hell am I supposed to beat this thing? And I remember struggling as a little kid, but thankfully now that I'm older, I can pretty easily get this thing out of here. Unfortunately, at this point your companions are pretty useless against this thing, so it's up to you to get this thing out of here as quick as possible. And this thing will two-tap your companions, so I wouldn't worry about the prison guards. I'm just worried about my mom. But after rescuing my mom and dealing with that whole ordeal, I stopped by the Temple of Avo. It's worth noting that if you donate 100,000 gold to the Temple of Avo, there is an achievement for that. And there is a pretty devastating weapon that you receive in return.
The gods are pleased by your donation. Very pleased.
And I bet if I donated 100,000 gold to anybody, they would be most grateful. The Sentius is the least you can do. And the Sentius comes with a silver augment. And as you guys can see right here, the Sentius is actually pretty nasty, right? The only drawback is the speed. This thing hits like a dump truck, but unfortunately, it also moves at the speed of a dump truck. And then when you combine that with the enemy's invincibility frames, it doesn't make for a fun time.
I've got you covered. I've got you covered.
Enough with the fucking invincibility frames. Jesus Christ. You know, if there's one thing I hate about this game, it's the little auto blocking and invincibility frames. At some point I get tired of that shit, and you know, I use Berserker. And even though Berserker causes the enemies to knock down to the point where you can't deal damage to them anymore, it's still a better alternative. So my next objective takes me to Hook Coast, but unfortunately before I can proceed any further, we're interrupted by a barrier.
It explains what I just found in the guild. Meet me in Maze's quarters. I found a book that may help.
So as I proceed back to the Heroes Guild, I find my mother captured in Maze's quarters. And the last words she says to me is, "Don't forget the book." One thing worth noting, you see this cool little fancy sword I got? Yeah, that's the sword in the stone. I was finally able to pull that shit out after escaping from the prison and upping my toughness and my strength just a little bit more.
I have a quest card from your mother. Quickly, come to the map room and speak to me.
But now that Jack of Blades has taken my mother, he has one of the tools that's instrumental to getting the Sword of Eons. So we're going to go pick up a quest card and hopefully we'll be able to spoil his plans. But as you know, in video games like this, it never goes the way you planned, right? It never goes the way you planned. We rescued our mom from Jack of Blades prisons, and she's been rescued for a total of, I don't know, a couple days, and we've already lost her again. So Jack of Blades, he's pretty damn efficient when it comes to getting. So at this point in the story, if you choose to go rescue your mom, you abandon all your other quests. It's basically the point of no return quest. And I remember back in the day, after you went through this section, you can only play through this ending sequence. You didn't have access to the rest of the game anymore. It was kind of one of those Fallout 3 situations where once you beat the game, you could only play that ending sequence. Unless you bought the DLC.
We've got to get out of here! It's after us! No! We're all gonna die!
What's funny about these shriekers is I remember as a kid being terrified of those things. Now that I'm older and I know how to build my character, I pretty much just one-tap those things and keep moving. Gotcha, bitch. As you make your way through the village, the shriekers will keep spawning. And what's cool about the shriekers is it's one of the only times where you really see them in the game. But the ultimate objective here is to make your way through this area and meet up with Maze.
Calistoro necusarum enoxisum. Calistoro necasarum enoxisium. Eretore.
You're alive? Yes, I was worried when you disappeared. Your sister. I know. I had to tie her up. Jack is controlling her somehow. That's why I'm here. I'm trying to stop him.
He's lying. He's the one working for Jack.
No, she's trying to confuse you. She's...
There is really no time for this, old wizard. Finish the ritual, Maze. I'd like my key now.
It's almost over, and it will be easier with the boy here.
So, you escaped my little cage. I'm surprised it took you so long. I trust you didn't lose too much of that precious blood of yours getting out. The septimal key. You've hidden from me far too long. Take our 2 blood bags to the chamber. I shall be there soon.
Surprised? You shouldn't be.
So yeah, Maze is working for the Jack of Blades. So, it's time to kick Maze's ass, but unfortunately, this fight kind of sucks because Maze just keeps teleporting all over the village, so you're basically just running from section to section trying to knock this fool down. But he has these cheesy ass area of denial attacks that piss me off. Like this, look at this unblockable bullshit. And the thing that pisses me off about this fight is this goes on for quite a while, you know. I find myself shuffling through my spells, trying to find what's most effective. And really the only thing I can really use is time control and my berserker ability, but even time control doesn't seem to be effective because this dude's still moving pretty fluidly, and he actually manages to deplete my health down to 0 right there. One thing that's funny about this area is this is really one of the few times where you come through this city, so the developers were really trying to get all they could out this one section of the map because this is really the only time where it's used in the game. But I keep pursuing Maze through the village, trying to close distance, and even when I pull out my bow and arrow, it's not a whole lot of use because this fool keeps spamming cheesy ass mana attacks, and he takes little to no damage from my bow. So eventually I'm like, fuck it, and I run up and I just keep beating him over the head with Berserker. And one thing that's worth noting is if you didn't level up your lock picking, this last section makes it impossible to get Maze. You need to be able to pick the lock at the end of this mission in order to take out Maze.
You think that's gonna harm me? You'll have to do better than that. I was wrong. Maybe you are strong enough to defeat Jack. You haven't got much time. He's using the key to activate the focus sites all over Albion. Then the sword will
step through the Cullis Gate. You've received a new quest card.
Jack has to be stopped. He's activating those rocks. Always thought they were damn ugly things. I don't want to die for them either. I guess we'll just have to kill them first. Come on, follow the path and turn right. Keep moving. The focus site is marked on your map.
So finally, you're going after Jack of Blades once and for all. But unfortunately, there are these boulders all over Albion, right? In each section you've been visiting from start to finish. And what this does is, it basically culminates in you chasing Jack of Blades all over Albion to each one of these focus sites to prevent him from activating these rocks. While doing this, you will encounter every enemy that you've been fighting from start to finish.
So Maze couldn't hold you. He wouldn't have seen the end of the day anyway. He had outlived his usefulness. You're too late here. This site is active. Don't worry. I haven't finished with you yet.
Looks like he's done whatever he was doing, but the portal is still open. Follow him through. I'll stay here and teach these animals who Briar Rose is.
So you reach the first focus site, but unfortunately by that time it's far too late and the Jack of Blades is already delting his ass out of there. And so you make your way to the next focus site, but unfortunately Briar Rose decides to stay behind. And it's funny how throughout the whole game she's been kind of a disrespectful bitch, but at the end of the game she's like, oh yeah, go ahead hero, I'll stay behind and teach these guys who Briar Rose is. Nobody gives a fuck about who Briar Rose is, honestly.
thought you weren't going to make it. You'll never catch up with me. How do you like the new world? This is just a taste of what's to come, my boy. Just 2 more to go now.
What's incredible about the Jack of Blades is this dude is a legend, man. This guy is incredibly consistent, especially when it comes to taunting the player and talking shit to the player. This dude, Jack, never misses an opportunity to talk shit to the player or berate you or bring you down, and it's just awesome. I can confidently say that Jack of Blades is one of the great villains of the time. So while we're making our way through the moonlit tunnel, we encounter Thunder. I guess apparently Thunder is down here putting in some work, and he decides to accompany us to go confront the Jack of Blades.
Only one left. You aren't making this much of a challenge. And now your flesh and blood is waiting for me.
Damn it. We're too late. He must be at Headsman's Inn. That's where everyone else was heading. You better go after him. I'm exhausted. I need to find somewhere to rest.
So Thunder accompanies you for all of 30 seconds, and then when we finally catch up with Jack of Blades, obviously we're too late, and Thunder's just like, oh, you go ahead. I've used too much energy. I need to recharge. Thunder should change his name to fucking Mouse. I should be called Thunder because when I walk into a room, it's fucking thunder and lightning. When Thunder walks into a room, it sounds like a mouse pissing on cotton. But yeah, I leave Thunder behind and I keep pursuing Jack of Blades to what I hope to be the final focus site. And as you're making your way there, there's just mad enemies spawning everywhere. And it's really good XP if you want to stop to fight them all, but at this point, I'm sick of fighting these guys, and especially with their invincibility frames and their cheesy ass attacks, so I'm just going after Jack.
Sweet Scarlet, I hope there is still some blood left in those hard old veins. But look, here comes a fresh supply. Are you ready to see the guild burn, hero?
Stop him!
So at this point, we've pretty much failed to stop the Jack of Blades from activating all these focus sites. And so it's worth noting this all culminates in a showdown at the Heroes Guild where the Sword of Aeons is located. This is the last chance to beef up any defenses you want, so this is a good time to do that if you haven't done it already.
You've received a new quest card.
There's nothing we could do. He has power like none I've ever seen. And he has your mother and sister too. If either of them dies, Avo help us all. Stop him, lad. For all our sakes, stop him. What are you doing out here? Get into the Chamber of Fate and stop Jack.
So at this point in the story, it's time for that showdown with Jack of Blades that we've been waiting for all this time. Now, if you did not plan properly, this fight can be a bitch. They even leave you a nice little longbow to let you know that, hey, it's bow season, son.
What a touching family reunion. The mother, the son, the daughter, and the sword. There's only one thing missing. It's your blood next. Then I will make this world burn.
So unfortunately, by the time we get here, we're just a little too late, and Jack of Blade, he cuts our mom's throat in order to harvest her essence and unlock the Sword of Eons. And so this last fight is really lame, because Jack just keeps spawning in his minions while throwing long-range attacks at you, and I believe these attacks can knock you over too. So your best option is to use your Berserker ability, so that way you can take out the ranged enemies and then deal with Jack. And once you take out these minions, the best course of dealing with Jack, I found, is just to use Berserker and just run up on him and just try to hammer his ass as much as you can. So at this point, the Jack of Blades ascends into the air, and this is where being prepared comes into play, right? Because if you went and got yourself a master crossbow, or really even just a decent crossbow, and you have the multi-shot ability and you leveled that ability up, you should be able to make quick work of the Jack of Blades while weaving in and out of cover. But unfortunately, the goddamn cover system doesn't work that well, because even when you're behind a rock, his attacks will just kind of AoE knock your ass back. And so I think one reason I struggled so much with this fight as a kid is because I didn't prepare properly. But now that I'm prepared properly, got mad health potions and resurrection vials, I do end up making quick work of this guy. Like this was a pretty cool boss fight. I really enjoyed this as a kid.
And now comes the choice I spoke of so long ago. Strike me down now with the Sword of Aeons, and you will become as powerful as Jack dreamt of being. Cast it into the vortex, and its darkness will be gone forever. So what will you do, little brother?
So this is the end of the game. At this point, you've rescued your sister and you received the Sword of Eons. So you have two options at this point. You can keep the sword, but you would have to kill your sister, or you can take the sword and you can cast it into the void. And to be honest, I'm a hero through and through, and I have no need for this kind of power. So obviously, I take the good route.
They're both where they belong now, lost forever. It's time I found where I belong. I know it isn't here.
The hero had triumphed over Jack of Blades and forsaken the dark power of the sword. When he stepped outside into daylight, the crowds cheered his name. He walked among them as a legend. As the months passed, the guild and its people would recover. Walls would be rebuilt and order restored. For Teresa, it would not be so easy. She retreated to distant lands, where a lifetime of wounds might be allowed to heal. A whole year passed. With Jack gone, Albion returned to something approaching peace. And for one...
So at this point, guys, we have completed the game. And the question we're here to answer is Fable really that good? And to you guys, I say yes. And personally, I'd say Fable is actually better than I remember. Fable was one of the first games to introduce me to a karma system. Fable was also one of the first games to introduce me to a system where I live out my life from child to adult to old man. But by the end of the story, you're an old man, but at the same time, you've become a legend. When Fable came out in 2004, I didn't fully grasp how good Fable was, you know, because I was a sophomore in high school. I was basically a kid. But now that I'm older, I see the game in a totally different light. And from where I'm sitting, the game is an absolute masterpiece. And I think it's fair to say that at the time this came out, Peter Molyneux knew what the hell he was doing. I know it's been a long ride, guys, but if you have made it this far in the video, thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. My channel is kind of a mess, but I promise I'm working on getting it cleaned up. But if this is the kind of content you like, please sound off in the comments because I'm really trying to find my lane here. I'm working on a full story evaluation for Fallout 3, so hopefully people like this video and this one goes well. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. You guys have a wonderful day. Peace.
It is up to you, hero. You defeated Jack single-handedly. If it will not open for you...
The man's got a point. I'll stick to my speciality and hit the books. We need to know what these summoners are. Good luck.